Hi, everyone. I am Diana Williams. I'm a doctor of nursing practice, a nurse practitioner, and owner of Strategic Wellness Center. We're going to be sharing a peptide seminar webinar tonight, discussing all the things about peptides. A lot of people have shown a lot of interest in what peptides are and how they work in the human body. Most of it, you know that we are the area's leader in functional medicine, and we have been in this space for a little over 8 years now. And we've been offering hormone replacement therapy, functional medicine, and functional aesthetics. And then peptide therapy, we've actually been doing for quite a while, but it has gathered a lot of attention here recently. So we've increased our catalog of offering services for peptide therapy and really want to bring a lot of education to the forefront. For people to better understand what peptides are, what they do, and how we at Strategic Wellness Center can use them to incorporate in our one of our healing protocols that we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. By the way, I'm going to probably talk for no more than 40 minutes, maybe a little bit shorter, but there is going to be some opportunity for a question and answer at the end. If you are comfortable, you can unmute your microphone or you can just go ahead and start adding things to the chat box, and I'll try to get to as many of those as I can before we leave. All right, let me see if I can minimize this screen so I can get access to the presentation. All right, you should all be able to see my screen. Can someone let me know if we cannot see the screen? Were you able to see the screen okay? Perfect. Thanks, Rita. Appreciate that. All right. So the title for this evening is Peptides, Unlocking Your Body's Potential Through a Functional Medicine Approach. So most of you have at least heard the term of functional medicine. Functional medicine is addressing root causes. So unlike conventional traditional medicine, we're not just looking to aim to put more things in the body like medications. We're actually uncovering the root causes to why there is a need for that in the first place. What is causing the body's imbalance, whether it's hormones or inflammation or toxicity or oxidative stress. We are going to search to figure out why there's an imbalance to begin with versus just putting more things back in. And that does include natural therapies like hormones and peptides. So there's a lot of people out there that are offering peptides. There's a lot of influencers and nutritionists that are offering peptides, most of which are, in the United States, have to be prescribed through a medical prescriber. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just getting them off the black market, which is certainly a concern. We're going to talk about the safety concerns. But the reality is people want access. They want access to these things. So we're offering that in a very safe, effective way that we're not having to get through China and off the black market, which is not going to be good for anyone. All right, so just basic biology. What is a peptide? What are they aiming for? What are we doing with them? So peptides are extremely natural. So similar to what hormones are doing, the body recognizes them, the body makes them themselves. So this is not a foreign substance. This is not a synthetic particle. This is something the body makes themselves, but and the body's able to degrade and knows what to do with. Unlike synthetic medications that are your typical prescription drugs, those are synthetic, they're man-made, they have chemical compounds that look and act like our natural peptides and hormone signalers in the body, but they're not identical. Therefore, they have what is called like a buildup effect, and we have side effects with them. But peptides, if they're used effectively, should have little to no side effects because the body does know what to do with them. But they're basically just a very short strain of amino acids. So basically, amino acids are coming from the breakdown of protein. So you eat protein, you have to eat eight essential types of amino acids. There's eight essential and there's non-essential amino acids that your body's going to make on its own, but most of which you do need to get in through your diet through a protein source, whether that's a plant-based protein like vegetables and beans and lentils, or an animal-based protein like eggs or chicken, poultry, those kind of things. Then you're supposed to ingest that product. So you take it in and then you're supposed to digest it. That process of digestion is not as easy as it sounds. In a perfect world, we should have an ample amount of stomach acid. We should have an ample amount of things like digested proteins coming or digestive enzymes coming from the gallbladder and digestive enzymes also coming from the pancreas to help you digest your your fatty acids, your proteins, but also your carbohydrates coming from your salivary amylase. So in a perfect world, we're able to digest things effectively. Unfortunately, a lot of us are on medications that impede our body's ability to digest these foods. So things like antacids, PPIs, those kind of things. Other medications can do this as well. And then unfortunately, we have, wonky gallbladders or the absence of a gallbladder, therefore it doesn't work effectively, or we just can't make these digestive enzymes. So we are digestive enzyme deficient. Therefore, we're going to have an inability to actually digest our food. So if you can't digest a protein, therefore you can't get the actual peptides from them. But in a perfect world, let's assume everything's working perfectly. We're able to digest our food. We're able to get enough protein in our diet. Therefore, we get the amino acid chains that we need to. And then what happens is the body is signaling somewhere in the body there's a need for a certain peptide, right? So what the body's going to do is tell the amino acids there's a amino acid bond that happens. So if there's 50 or less amino acids in a group together, that's what's called a peptide. 50 amino acids or more is still a whole protein. So it's basically just a mini protein, if you will. Again, very common ones that we know that the names of are things like collagen. All that is a peptide bond, and then insulin as well. Insulin is a hormone peptide. It's the same thing. It's still a peptide. So basically, these amino acids form bonds. Like think about magnets, and those are called peptide bonds. It's how they're bound together. And these peptide bonds will actually attract upon each other, and they form into a specific type of key. And then that key is looking for specific receptors all over the body. So for instance, if you need an anti-inflammatory benefit for the brain because there's neuroinflammation going on at the brain, your body will actually call to action it to manufacture and make a specific peptide that looks like a key. These keys only fit into certain receptors, and the brain has these receptors. And then once the peptide fits tightly into that bond in the brain, it actually activates the peptide and it turns on an anti-inflammatory cascade, calling to action anti-inflammatory particles in the system. So that's exactly what peptides are. So they're just a very short strain of amino acids perfectly bound together to create a specific key, and that key has a specific function depending on where it's going in the body. So these peptides can act as signaling molecules to signal more anti-inflammatory or immune response to the system. They can act as hormones. They can actually act as neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and GABA. They can actually regulate growth in the body. They can actually tell the cells to turn over faster and grow. It's like muscle cells and brain cells and heart cells. They can actually activate or slow down metabolism in our system, and immune system responses, and then reproduction by binding to certain cell receptors that they're looking for. Unfortunately, there is a natural decline in the body's ability to manufacture and utilize these peptides as the body ages. So when we go through the aging process, we do see a natural increased risk of things like bone breakdown, wear and tear on our joints, wear and tear on our brain and our heart, and inflammation just because of the aging process itself. So we're constantly working in the field of longevity to work toward counteracting just the normal health decline of the human body. And peptides are a huge way that we can use that science to counteract that. So peptides are tiny little messengers, but that message could be absolutely profound in what it does in the human body. So again, the old way of doing medicine is medication, synthetic drugs to basically block receptors in the brain. They look like keys, they act like keys, but they're not structurally identical to what the body needs. Therefore, those keys kind of get stuck in those receptor site and the body cannot degrade them effectively. Plus, the liver doesn't really know what they are, so it tries to degrade them, but there is a process, a buildup process of synthetic compounds. Peptides have a similar action on the body. They can still inhibit or activate certain receptors, but they are more identical to what the body needs. Therefore, they're going to act a lot more naturally in the system. So they really are the future of medicine. We're just on the cutting edge of being able to utilize them and create to do it in a very safe environment. So the benefit of using a functional medicine approach, I always tell people, is like you don't really want to put anything into the body, whether it's natural hormones or natural peptides, without first understanding why there's a need for it in the first place. So we have, patients all over the spectrum. We have patients who are very, very healthy. They've lived a healthy lifestyle their entire lives. They're exercising, they're bodybuilding, they're doing all the right things. They're just looking for a little bit of extra support or advantage, an edge up, if you will, to do even better in their structural, the physical physique, the way they look, their body composition, or maybe they're just looking to outperform their competitor in their field that they're in. They have a very stressful job. They have a very cognitive need for to be really super sharp in their brain, their body function. So they're just looking for an edge up from the competition, if you will. So we have that into this perspective, and then we also have very, very sick clients that are already coming to us, and they have two or three chronic diseases. They already have established heart disease or established diabetes, or they're a post-cancer patient, and they're really are just beginning their healing journey. So we can actually use functional foundational principles along with peptide therapy in any stage of that healing process. But really, what we're trying to do, not just putting more things into the body like hormones and peptides, is really lay a foundation where these peptides are going to work more effectively and more strategically in the body. So very much an integrative approach. We're going to incorporate things like strategic lifestyle, nutritional counseling. We do environmental toxin detoxification pathways, open up those pathways, and just really optimize them to lay that foundation where the peptides and the hormones just work much better in the system. If you put, peptides or hormones in an inflamed, toxic environment, you're really just sprinkling water on a forest fire. You still may get some initial benefit, but the problem is those peptides, again, they're just a network of amino acids. If the body is like desperate for one amino acid that may actually be pro-inflammatory, it can actually take that peptide that you eat or that you take exogenously and turn it into a different one. It will denature it and say, hey, wait, we don't want to be anti-inflammatory right now. This person's got so much going on that we need inflammation to kind of keep her alive right now. So the body's working against itself. So what we need to do is put the fire out, put the inflammation out, put the oxidative stress out of the system, and then along with the peptides and the hormones, really dampen that and get the body back to its healing state. So everything that we do in functional medicine, specifically Strategic Wellness Center, is extremely personalized. We do a laboratory testing. We're not just going to put things back into the system without understanding what we're putting in and how it's going to be affecting long term by addressing those fundamental root causes of what's causing the inflammation or the hormonal balance to begin with. So this is very much an art and a science to the peptides. It's really understanding, really important if you're going to get a very successful blend of peptides that is going to be safe and effective. We've all heard the potential legalities when we're talking about peptide therapy. We've all heard the potential scary stories, right? Yes, you can certainly get a very bad batch of hormones or peptides more commonly because those are more injectables that have not gone through third-party testing, that are not having the same quality controls that the FDA mandates in North Carolina, in North America. You may be getting them from other third world countries that could be getting anything, any sorts of bacteria, heavy metals, contaminations in these peptides that you're purchasing on the black market. When you're purchasing from these websites, they can tell you anything they want to tell you about, highest FDA standard, blah, 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 blah. You don't know that these are actually accurate. They can put whatever they want out there. You still could be getting them from China that have no quality controls. And yes, if you inject something that is made with synthetic chemicals or made with, it's got bacteria contaminants, that you can certainly see some issues. So the reason why I took so long in bringing a full catalog of peptides back to the practice is because the quality control there was not there, but it is coming back. And I have certainly highly researched the laboratories that we're using and the compounding pharmacies that we're using. Unfortunately, there's not all the peptides that are on the market currently are FDA approved. There have been studies on every single one of them, both either human trials or animal trials. But again, we know that these peptides are isolated in the human body, so they are effective, but just making sure we're sourcing them from a very safe way. So the world of peptides, it's in terms of like legalities and oversight is constantly changing. But the FDA is aware that people are using them and really trying to keep them as safe as possible. So again, this is how that they work. This is their mechanism of action. They have targeted functions in the body. So we're using different peptides depending on what we're looking for outcomes. So we have ones that are specific for metabolism and fat reduction. We have ones that are, anti-inflammatory. We have ones that help support building the body, building the tissues and the muscle and the bones. We have some that are more for like neuropeptides, so they help with like sleep and well-being and appetite control and regulation. But all of them act the similar way. They're all messengers and they bind to those certain receptors on those cell surfaces to initiate those or regulate those biological processes, either turn off that control center in the brain or increase it. And then all of them need to be specific in the protocols. The protocols are different depending on the patient and the patient's biology and the patient's goals. So everything needs to be done through a very tapered approach, very individualized approach. But again, the peptides are amazing little things that we can use to help the body get back to a healing state. But really, we need to understand that peptides don't work in isolation, right? They are different based on your specific body chemistries, your acid base in your system. What are the hormones in the system already? So when we do peptides, we always like to check the hormones and find out where the baseline hormone levels are, not just your sex steroids, but cortisol. So if the body is under a cortisol inflammatory response, then obviously we need to modify our peptide dosing and type depending on what's going on. Same thing for insulin. If there's a ton of insulin in the body, maybe we shouldn't use a ton of anabolic peptides because there's already a pro-inflammatory, pro-anabolic state in the body. And they all work together, right? And that's why a lot of these peptides, we can certainly work with them in blends, certain blends, that if we use them in isolation, you're still going to get some benefit, but they all kind of, like hormones, they all kind of work interconnectively and they talk to each other. Um, so I think it's really important that you're looking at more of the whole picture and not just individual peptide dosing. So we do want to bring a little bit of a case study to you. This was just one of the clients that we're using with peptides. I wanted to share a little bit of information. It was a 56-year-old male, came to me about a year ago. He had some mild symptoms. He felt like he was pretty healthy for the most part. He did have some mild digestive issues. He had insomnia, was snoring pretty deeply. The main thing is he's retired. He retired early, was highly successful in his career, and he was able to retire early financially, but he just did not have the endurance or the stamina that he wanted to as a stereotypical 56-year-old male. He's like, I'm retired. I'm supposed to be living my best life. I just don't have the energy really to get back in dating. I didn't really have the energy to, go traveling, all the things that I thought I was going to do when I retired. Just didn't feel as good, but everything was very mild. Didn't have a lot of diagnoses yet, just very mild symptoms, little depression, little joint aches and pains. He tore his rotator cuff trying to overdo it at the gym. They were recommending surgery, and he just wanted to try to avoid that. They put him on a low dose metformin because his blood sugars were going up a little bit, and a low dose of statin because his cholesterol was like a little bit borderline. So I did labs on him, and I'm like, oh gosh, we got some things going on. And he was like, well, everybody else is telling me my labs are completely normal. I'm like, well, I guess it's through the lens through which you're looking. If you're trying to look for normal labs, yes, you absolutely have the normal labs. But these normal lab values were set based on sick older men. Like we don't want to be a normal lab for an older person, right? We want an optimal lab value for someone who is our age or a little bit younger, somewhere where our ideal age and body composition would be. So his testosterone was about 560 by all intents and purposes in conventional medicine. That's considered a normal testosterone. But I can tell you, there's nothing normal about a 56-year-old man having only a 500 testosterone level when the optimal level for his body type was been closer to 900, 800, 900. He also was converting a lot of that testosterone to estrogen, which for a man, you need some estrogen, but his estrogen levels were higher than optimal. So he had some moodiness and some just weight gain around his hips and his belly area. His cortisol levels were extremely high, although he says he didn't have any stress at all. But again, cortisol is not just a stress hormone in terms of psychological stressors. It's a hormone that responds to chronic stress, inflammation in the system, or oxidative stress. Anything that's more of a physiological or body stressor can raise that cortisol levels high as well. He had mild insulin resistance, which is why he was taking the metformin, which was having a lot of side effects in his digestion. He was not aware of that. He had, insulin resistance levels were creeping up. His A1C was 5.7. That was still considered normal, but nowhere near optimal level. We actually want to see that A1C less than 5.4 ideally. His vitamin D levels were in the toilet. His B12 levels were in the toilet. very, very low, indicating that his body was pulling all these antioxidants like vitamin D and B12 because he had an oxidative stress reaction in his system. His cholesterol was borderline, and his inflammation markers were very high. We measured his CRP at over 4. And then his food sensitivities were all over the chart. So he had very severe leaky gut, a lot of inflammation in his system. All that leaky gut was disallowing his body the ability to absorb his vitamins and minerals. Therefore, he couldn't absorb his fat, his fatty acids, or his amino acids. So he couldn't make peptides on his own. He couldn't make his hormones on his own. And so those were some of his root causes. So we addressed his gut. We addressed those food sensitivities. We got him back off the metformin, which was causing a lot of issues in his gut, causing the leaky gut syndrome. We addressed his low testosterone by giving him micro doses of TRT. He felt amazing. And then we did a low dose peptide therapy. We chose an anabolic build, we chose an anti-inflammatory build for him because of his shoulder pain. We asked him to inject BPC and TB500 or use a combination of those things, not injections. He used a combination of peptides kind of in around that area. And we actually use sermorelin, not ipirelin for him. Sermorelin is a little bit of an anabolic steroid as well. So it kind of give him a little bit more endurance in the gym and gave him a little bit more muscle mass. That was the dosing that we used. And then we microdose tirzepatide. So that name brand would be things like not the Wegovys, but the Manjaro and the Zepbound. We used a combination of peptides for him, but we only used very, very, very low doses because we didn't need a mega dose for him. And we didn't really want to get him overdosed on these peptides. Therefore, he loses his appetite and then he gets malnourished. Like that wouldn't give him any benefit. We just used the microdosing portion of it. So 4 months later, we saw him back. He's feeling amazing. He sends me a letter. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm 29 again. Thank you so much for all the improvement. I'm like, hey, I'm your coach. You're the one doing the hard work. He did it. He did the dietary piece of it. We addressed the gut health. He took the supplementation. We did the peptide therapy. He was actually doing all the hard work, and he did everything we asked him to do. His LDL reduced over 35 points. He was actually able to stop his statin therapy at that point. There was no need for it at that point. We did a scan. His arteries looked clean, and therefore reduced the need for that cholesterol medication. His inflammation markers dropped down to less than 1, so that's ideal. His TRT levels, it got back to his ideal range was in the mid 900s, and he felt amazing. He was able to get his vitamin D and B12 levels back up. His blood sugar reduced. His A1C reduced down to 4.9. His body fat reduced from 21 percentile down to 16 percentile. His muscle mass improved. He actually said he hit his personal record in the gym for leg presses. He's been in exercises his entire life, but he actually hit his PR in his 50s with these therapies. And then he was able to cancel his shoulder surgery. He said the rotator cuff was no longer bothering him. He felt it was an anti-inflammatory support that he got from the peptide therapy and the anti-inflammatory diet. He was able to cancel his shoulder surgery. And we hear these stories all the time. I had a girl in here earlier, a young girl that was able to cancel a brain surgery because they were, basically treating her for a structural issue, but it was an inflammatory reaction that she was having, all these headaches. And they thought maybe a brain surgery would fix the problem. And she was like, at last ditch effort, she's like, you know what, I'm throwing the kitchen sink at them. I'm willing to try anything. And sure enough, we were able to get her to cancel her surgery, and she feels amazing. So they're able to discontinue that metformin and the low dose of statin. So, these peptides work again, but that case study, as I showed you, like they work in combination of healthy diet and lifestyle, detoxification, supplementation, addressing those food sensitivities, addressing the nutritional imbalances as well. And then he got rapid benefit in less than 4 months. So the peptides that we can offer, there's a lot of them on the market. Some of them we have access to, some of them we don't, but I think that they are coming. So I wanted to kind of give you an overview of what is out there. But we don't have access to everything in the type of, the route of therapy that we want. There's injectables, there's orals for certain things, and there's topicals, there's creams. So it just depends on really what's going on. So it's all very individualized. But you have a lot of talk right now about the fat loss and the metabolism, the body composition, because so many people in the United States are overweight, they're over fat, and they're so concerned about this body fat, and for a good reason. It's not just cosmetic, although that is important. There is a lot of concern of, obesity increasing your risk of things like heart disease and Alzheimer's and about every other chronic disease out there. So we can reduce overall risk factors by addressing body fat loss. So things like the semaglutide and the tirzepatide, these GLP-1s, if they're dosed correctly and used in the right body, they are amazing tools that we can use. I don't even love to get them to the highest doses that actually cause an extreme amount of appetite suppression, nutrition. Like they're not like really doing a whole lot of benefit if you're just like starving yourself. But the goal is to help use it as an anti-inflammatory support to get the appetite down a little bit, where the sugar cravings go away, the carbohydrate cravings go away, and you can follow a diet, nutrition, exercise program, and you'll absolutely be able to titrate back off of these medications. They do improve the insulin sensitivity, and obviously weight loss is a benefit. But there's other ones that we can use. We can actually help support like the muscle growth, like using some of the other anabolics. So sermorelin's a very common one, and paralin, you may have heard of tesmorelin as well. All these have been on the market. Some of them still are, to help support growth of those muscle tissues. So wonderful to use in that postmenopausal woman that just can't get her muscle mass up, and she's over fat, although she looks skinny, but she's over fat because she's got more body fat than compared to her ratio of muscle. And then helping her gain a little bit of muscle helps support that insulin sensitivity in the body. There are anti-inflammatory and performance peptides. These are really big in the body composition world, where performance trainers are, doing a lot of weight loss or body weight training, and they're wearing out their joints and they're wearing out their muscles and they're just not getting the recovery. So we can use these targeted peptides as anti-inflammatory signals. The TB500 is amazing, specifically for autoimmune patients for cellular repair, and it does reduce systemic inflammation as well. We've got one specifically that are working on just the visceral fat to help and support the growth hormone to help support muscle mass as well. And then we have ones for neurotransmitter function. I love the ones for cognitive function as well. NAD is another one I forgot to put on the slide, but that's another really cool coenzyme or copeptide that we can use along with some of the other ones that really work fantastic for memory enhancement. I do that once a week. Memory recall, we've studied that a little bit, not to the point of satisfaction, but we have studied a little bit in things like Alzheimer's patients and those kind of things, and Parkinsonism, to really understand what's happening with those cognitive delay or cognitive um, um, imbalances, I guess. But we do have like things like Cimax and Cell-Link that are either improving your focus and memory, so more of like a natural support for people with ADD. Cell-Link is really good for anti-anxiety. So if you don't want to use an SSRI but want to do something more natural, Cell-Link is a really good option for that without sedating the brain. And then we have one specifically for anti-aging. We have patients who just, I want to live for a long time, but I want to live well. Epitelone is a really good one that helps slow down the telomerase activity, to keep your cells actually at the cellular level a lot healthy, so you don't wear and tear down on your cells. GHKCU, which is a copper peptide, is one of my favorite. I use that most days of the week. It is great for hair growth, regeneration. You can use it topically or injection. It is great for like skin and soft tissues, just to slow down the aging process. It works as a powerful antioxidant for the skin, hair, and nails, but it does actually work on the cellular level as well. There's one specifically for libido, right? I mean, a lot of women and men are treated with low libido with testosterone and mega doses of testosterone, trying to think that that'll help with libido. Libido is so much more complex than just testosterone deficiency. It's a lot to do with like neurotransmitter activity in the brain. So we can use other ones. PT141 is a very common one for that. It works great for both men and women for libido support. Kisspeptin's another one. I use that a lot for my perimenopausal women who are just kind of going through, had a healthy libido and then perimenopause hit and it's just not so good anymore. Kisspeptin's a really good option for that. And then there are specific peptides out there that actually help support, fighting bacteria and biofilms, and ones that are specifically for things like autoimmunity that enhance the immune system. So really, and one specifically for sleep. So really good options out there. Again, we don't have access to all of these things, but we've curated some specific ones that we can do. I would encourage you to reach out to us, and we can offer you our full catalog. Our catalog includes all of our current peptide blends that we do offer. Again, they can be used all single. You're going to save some money if you're going to use them individually. You're going to be kind of in that mid 100 range if you're doing just one peptide, a single peptide. But again, we feel like that they work better when they're used synergistically with other ones. So we have ones that are specifically for anti-aging. We have ones that are specifically for the youth and for the hair, skin, and nails. We have ones that are specifically for more anabolic. People want to like build more body composition. Ones that are more anti-inflammatory. Ones that are more immune support for people with autoimmune conditions. So we have a lot of different options out there. And when you get to the peptide blends, you've got things like the dual peptides that work together. Those are more in the $200 range. And then when you're talking about the blends of threes and fours, those could get closer to the 350 to 380 range, depending on how many peptides we put together. All of them are very curated, and we can offer the complete peptide catalog to those who are anticipating booking a consultation with us. So your journey to optimize health can start as early as now. Just recapping those benefits again, we're not just putting peptides and hormones in. We really want to lay that foundation with your unique physiology and understanding your science-backed mechanism to target these specific cellular pathways and achieving that hormone synergy for long-term success, not just a dependency on peptides. So the goal here is to take the next step, schedule your personalized consultation. I can tell you a little bit of how that consultation process is going to work. So we do book a consultation. It's about a 45 minute to an hour long consultation. Those are all going to be booked with me. We have another doctor nurse practitioner that's in the office, and she's fantastic, and she does kind of help along with the peptide journeys. But I usually initiate that conversation with the clients to make sure, A, you're going to be a really good fit, that you're looking for more holistic support. You're not looking just for easy fixes. And if you feel like you're a really good fit, we'll talk about the peptide options. We have very advanced protocols. We have full functional medicine wellness protocols that do help again lay that foundation. But we do have opportunity for people who just that are already healthy. I'm living very healthy. I'm already optimized. I already feel like I've got my hormone balance. I'm living clean. I just want to do that more optimization piece of it. I really just want to kind of get that additional edge. We do offer some other entry level into the practice that you don't have to do all the functional medicine testing or all the dietary allergen testing or the oxidative stress markers. We still will do a baseline testing on just specific markers looking for hormones to make sure you're healthy enough for those programs. But that's why the consultation exists, so we can have that conversation to see which program fits best for you. But we have different onboarding opportunities for patients. Again, that happens through the consultation. We also offer you a discovery call so you can learn more about how we do our programs, how we do our finances, do we take insurance, all those good questions, get those answers through the discovery call. I see a lot of you that are on the call tonight are already existing clients that are looking for these peptides and want to see what's out there. You skip that step, right? You're already in the practice. You don't have to pay the additional consultation fee. So that's already included in your program and your membership, or the fact that you're already an established client. So skip that piece, but we do ask that you reach out and jump on a virtual call with me to talk about specific peptides about what may be beneficial for you. But the other opportunity for the ones that are healthy, now again, that's a clearance through me to make sure, yes, the foundation's already been met, you've already done the right thing. We're just looking to like optimize and use some of these peptides that we do offer, another way into the practice through our longevity membership. It's a $99 fee that includes a medical oversight. We do give you additional discounts that you can use for your peptides and peptide blends. We get you med spa discounts as well. We feel when people start feeling better, they want to look better too. So we give you a discount to use toward our med spa. Also, our ancillary services, we offer a pulse electronic magnetic field mat to kind of get circulatory so these hormones and peptides can get circulating this body a little bit better. We have red light therapy that offers an anti-inflammatory benefit, IV therapy, vitamin injections, etc. And then a tier two that basically includes either a single peptide like sermorelin or TRT. So these are really good for our males who that are already healthy, right? They're already going to the gym and eating clean. They know that they want to do a low dose TRT. Their family doctor says they're not eligible because they don't, their testosterone is not so low that they meet insurance criteria, which is not really where we follow that. We don't necessarily follow what the insurance says that your testosterone needs to be. In my opinion, that's already in the toilet before people will actually help you. So we take the whole person. We're not just treating the labs, and those can start as low as 149, including a single peptide, specific ones, or a TRT. So you have some options there. But again, we do encourage you to call and schedule that discovery call to kind of see where you would fit best. We are offering new clients who would need to start with a discovery call $100 off their consultation. But again, existing clients, you kind of skipped all that. So you don't need to pay that. You just get to set up another virtual call with me and we can kind of go through your options. So does anybody have any questions about kind of what we're offering, how we're doing it? Again, this is recorded, so there might be other people that, hey, thank you for asking that question. That was helpful for me.
I'll just say that I mean this just kind of came on my radar as well. And being a current client, and under some hormone therapy right now that's working very well for me. I feel like is it my understanding that this peptide or peptides is just another tool in the toolbox.
That's
Somebody
exactly,
referred to it.
you got it.
So I would add on, where I might have a deficiency in a specific area that I wanted to improve upon,
Mhm.
um, and my health, I would just add that in.
You got it.
And okay.
Yeah, it's another
Um,
tool in your toolkit that you can use. You've already done the foundational stuff, the diet, the exercise. You feel pretty good. There might be some outlying, like I still got a little bit of this shoulder pain. It's a structural issue, or whatever the case may be, and you're looking to optimize in one specific area. That's where the peptides really shine.
the treatment, or you said there's several options depending on which one,
Mhm.
pill, injectables, cream.
Yes.
Is this, I guess it depends on which you choose, but what is the length of time? Like how often would you need
Yeah,
to,
that's a really good question. So, the peptides don't have to be used long term like the hormones do. The peptides are more of a cycle on, cycle off kind of thing. And the reason is because your body will always, they're not made by a hormone gland. So there could be a failure of a thyroid gland or a failure of the ovaries or the testicles. That's where the hormones are manufactured. Once that gland is failing because of menopause or toxins or autoimmunity, whatever case may be, there's always going to be a need to take a hormone replacement therapy. But unlike peptides, they're not made by a gland. So your body always has the capacity to make its own peptides again. Because of the things we mentioned earlier, like the low digestive enzymes or low dietary intake or inflammation in the system, there might be a short-term need to cycle on and cycle off of those things. So generally speaking, they're done in a series of 6 to 12 weeks. So when I quoted you those prices, that's per vial, and that the vial is going to last about 6 weeks or so. Typically, they vary completely, depending on type and patient, all that good stuff. But, you usually do about 12 weeks on for your first case. You're feeling much better within about 4 weeks is when we really start to see the benefit kick in. And then you halt. You pause it for about 4 to 6 weeks. You reassess for the need to start them up again. I'd say most people are going to do a cycle on every other quarter or so. So, it's not usually once and done, but it is not a consistent thing. Most people are going to want to cycle on and off these peptides.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, any more questions? Ashlyn, I think I got yours just answered. Thank you for that. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to record this. Like I said, if you're interested and you want to reach out, you can do that through Olivia. Her email is olehn, at strategicwellnesscenter.com, or you can just give us a call or text their main number, 828-838-1225. If you have a scheduled follow-up coming, just keep that appointment and we can certainly chat more at that appointment. Thank you so much, ladies. Hope everybody has a good evening. Thank you.